The average now, we are refining at about 60% of the installed capacity of these refineries. So it's not as if all the refineries have collapsed, no. We are, before, yes, but since we came on board, the refineries have been working, though sometimes they may have problems, but as we are talking, they are refining at about 60% of the installed capacity. But that gives us less than 20% of our needs, because our consumption is quite high. So we still need to expand our refining capacity. But this time around, we also want the private sector to get involved. You've been hearing about greenfield refineries. The term greenfield, because they are new refineries, they are nothing special, but that, I think, is a brand name the NNPC uses. It's a private sector driven. They have signed MOU with some international group. Also, other Nigerians have been talking to government. And that is why the crude oil itself, even to NNPC, it's been sold to NNPC at a commercial international price to encourage the private sector to refine. And you know, we've been saying that for us to move, the economy must be in the hands of the private sector. That's the essence of the privatization program of government. The privatization has been long on ground. It's not a new approach to running government. We're encouraging the private sector to get involved. And we believe that as we progress, we'll be able to refine enough. We also have a new concept that is coming on board. We've not discussed it in detail, and that is why I believe the Minister of Petroleum Resources has not been mentioning, but it is in the offing. Community-based micro-refineries. Some people have come up with those kind of concepts, that especially in the Niger Delta, where people go and take some crude oil in the name of bunkering and go and boil it in drums and just take a very little segment of it and pour the rest to pollute the water. Why not encourage small, very small refineries and have a way of small communities, maybe these isolated communities in the rural areas, refining very little quantity of crude oil for their engine boats and so on. That is also in the offering. In the next 4 years, we are going to look at all these options, the mega refineries, the medium-sized refineries, and the micro community-based refineries. And we believe that when we put all this together...
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Let me take you back to the issue of the economy, but with special attention to budget implementation. You will agree with Nigerians who say that budget implementation has become a major national headache. Fiscal indiscipline and disregard for financial regulations, they say, are now the norm rather than the exception. Now, we are also aware that since 1999, the experts, financial experts, have said that budget implementation each budget year has not exceeded 50%. Now, what measures will you put in place to ensure that budgets serve the purpose of facilitating development?
Budget implementation has been above 50%. I believe if I call on the Minister of Economic Planning or Finance Minister, they will give you the percentages maybe for the past 5 years or so. But I know that most cases, by October, people come up with the stories that we've not implemented 50% of the budget and create problems. But such people don't tell Nigerians what happens in December. And all, because we have the procurement law. The procurement law spells out detailed approach for major procurements. When you will advertise, how many weeks before you will do your technical bidding, how many weeks for, it gives very time frame for various stages. When you aggregate it all, it's almost 8 months. That's an area we are even trying to amend the laws. Though sometimes the president has the prerogative to, but you cannot intervene, but you cannot do that for all projects. Otherwise, they will think you are doing that because of a special interest. So most cases, the budgets are passed late. And by law, you cannot advertise for a project that the budget has not been passed. The National Assembly will not be happy with a minister who advertised that he wants to construct a road that the National Assembly have not approved. And sometimes by March, April, the budget is still in the National Assembly. By the time you get the budget, then you advertise. And the law specifies a number of weeks before you take the next step. So before you start awarding contracts, it's almost at the end of the year. However, sometimes media will even report that there is a rush to award contracts. It's not a rush. At the beginning of the year, you cannot. Though the National Assembly, too, have graciously approved extension of 3 months into a new budget year. For example, this year, today is 30th. Yes, we still award contracts up to the end of March. So if you go and ask now, you will see that we have implemented more than 80%, I believe. I'm not absolutely sure. So it is not true that we don't implement up to 50% of the budget. But one thing we also notice is that sometimes when the budget gets to the National Assembly, by the time it comes back, there are some projects that the ministries or agencies have no plans. And in such projects, you cannot award the contract because there are other procedures. For example, if it's a major infrastructure project, the law demands environmental impact assessment before you even talk about advertising, before you even talk about complete design. And before you finish these processes, the year is gone. EIA alone takes more than 12 months. So,
all right, may we remind our live audience here that the rules remain the same. No clapping, no cheering, no jeering. You may smile and you may grin. Mr. Defy.
Dr. Jonathan, our earnings in billions of dollars notwithstanding, the yearly budget notwithstanding, international organizations and Nigerians alike know from facts available to us that about 70% of Nigerians still live below the poverty line. If re-elected, what do we intend to do to take more of the millions of Nigerians out of this poverty line?
Job creation is one of the major areas of interest of this government. God's willing, if we are re-elected, and we made it very clear in our campaigns, we have a population of about 150 million people. Every day, people die. Every day, new babies are born. So the figure is not constant. But out of about this 150 million, you have 70% of them below the age of 30. And below the age of 19, about 50% of them. That is the age that are in schools, the youth corpers who will definitely look for jobs. So a country must prepare for that. And that is why we are emphasizing in 3 key areas. First is agriculture that you have earlier asked. We have to commercialize agriculture. We have to make agriculture attractive to the younger generation. One problem that probably people don't notice, because I operated at the local government state before coming to the center, so I know that some parts of the country, the younger people who happens to go to school feel quite reluctant to go and do the traditional farming. That means that you must commercialize agriculture and make it attractive to young graduates. They cannot go and get involved in the kind of farming our parents are used to. So the agri aspect and allied businesses must be encouraged. The oil sector too, if we continue to sell only crude oil and sell gas, we will not generate jobs. The oil industry, it is only during exploration and drilling that they employ so many people. After drilling, the pumping of crude oil from the ground to the distribution points is done mechanically. If you go to the biggest flow station, you hardly see 10 people working. For you to get jobs in the oil industry, you have to emphasize on the downstream activities. And that's why we are saying we build more refineries. The petroleum minister, not too long ago, led the team to sign MOUs with various groups to build 2 major fertilizer plants and 5 fertilizer blending plants, ethanol plant, the gas processing unit, and other petrochemicals. This is the only area that you can create jobs. And it can, when you aggregate all, it give us about 1 million jobs. That is expanding the downstream activities of the oil industry. But one area that, if we work very hard, we'll get a number of jobs is in the agriculture, which has been the basis of this country before oil became a factor. We must encourage commercial and more modern ways of farming.
Thank you very much. Mohamed Gaba.
Nigerians say the nation's major problem is leadership. What is your understanding of this problem, and how will you tackle the problem, especially given the large-scale indiscipline and vanishing moral values in our national lives?
About 2 days ago, when I was discussing with a friend, when we were confronted with these issues of candidates in some states and imposition by senior party officials, I was telling my friend that, look, one of the greatest things in leadership is the cost of leadership. It's an expensive business because as a leader, you pay dearly because you make a lot of sacrifices. And I agree with you that for you to be a leader, you must be ready to pay for it. And if it's a leadership by example, which I stand for, if you take these primaries that we've just concluded, even if you go to Bayelsa State, I refuse to interfere with the selection of candidates, which is a price I paid. Because as an individual, you have close friends, you have close political supporters. But as you grow taller in the political business, everybody becomes your own. So it's so difficult. If you go to influence, it becomes a problem. So if you look at what I've been doing over the period, I don't put my own personal interests above the interests of the nation. I don't put my own personal interests above the interests of my party. My party chairman can attest to that. The leadership of the party can attest to that. I believe that all Nigerians, irrespective of their background, probably because of my urban background, should be given the opportunity. For you to be a good leader, let us assume that you are from a community. You are the president of Nigeria or governor of a state. And your son is interested in a particular thing. And the son of a Kenikava too is interested. And the son of that Kenikava happens to be better than your son. Can you allow the son of the Kenikava take that position? If you allow, then you're a leader. But if your wife or your mother or your aunt or uncle will come and persuade you that how can you, a governor, how can ordinary son of a Kenikava take what is there? Then you cave in, then you're a bad leader. So a leader must be ready to make personal sacrifice. I have been doing that, and I will continue to do that. Because it's by divine providence that I am standing before Nigerians today as the president of this country. And I will ensure that all Nigerians get what is due them, irrespective of their background, irrespective of their language group, irrespective of their religion. As long as they are competent, they are qualified. And that is why I advise the young Nigerians that all what they need to do is to work hard, make sure that they pursue their education, and God's willing, they will get to the pinnacle of their career.
Thank you very much. Mr. Adefaye, you have the next question.
Thank you. Dr. Jonathan, you are an educationist by training. You are a university teacher. But the general thinking here in this country today is that our educational institutions founded on discipline, integrity, and honor are now unpardonable disappointment that we graduate unemployable people. For a fact, Nigeria has 8.2 million children who do not attend school. Given this worrisome reality, what are your immediate and long-term plans to raise educational standards and infrastructure in the sector to highest level for global competition? Thank you.
Thank you. You asked two questions in one. First, the quality of education. Next, what do we do to make sure that all our children go to school? Of course, in terms of all our children go to school, there is existing legislation, the universal basic education, make it compulsory for all Nigerian child to go to school, at least the first 9 years of education, the primary school, the first 6 years, which is in primary school, and the first 3 years of the junior secondary school. Ordinarily, if a parent is unable to make sure that his or her child or ward gets to that level, we are contravening the provisions. But it's very difficult to enforce. That means that government must play a role. And of course, education at that level is free all over the country. There is nowhere they pay school fees. But the demand is not just the school fees, the materials that will be provided. And through the UB intervention, we are working with the states to make sure that funds are made available for us to intervene at that level of education. I told you that when I came in as a vice president, I noticed that some states had up to 3 billion, some states 2, some more. They couldn't access. The money was just lying down there because the state couldn't pay their counterpart fund. And I said, no, we are losing. If our children are not provided with the basic infrastructure and money is lying down in banks, yielding no interest because the money was in a CBN. Initially, we thought that the money was in commercial bank and people probably were getting money out of it, but it was kept in CBN. And I held meetings, I think it's with the present Minister of Education. Then as a vice president, we met over it with the governors and we come up with policies and all the states are accessing the funds easily to make sure that we intervene at that level. But still we have some challenges, like some parts of the north, the Al-Majri group, because of the interest in bringing the children in line with the culture and the religion of the people. We are intervening to make sure that they are properly educated. That is also extended to the south. There are provisions for children who are the children of traders to make sure that while accompanying their parents to trade, they should also go to school. We also have a provision for them other cities where this concept of area boys. So that is to intervene and make sure that every Nigerian child gets to that first 9 years of education that is compulsory. Above that, we are strengthening the infrastructure in the universities.
All right, since it was 2 questions rolled into one, I'm ready to make an exception here. I would allow candidate Goodluck Jonathan to tackle the aspect on infrastructure, especially because most of our tertiary institutions today seem just like glorified high schools. What is being done?
Not quite. I don't completely agree with you that, because I've also been going to the universities. I've also entered the university campuses of other universities. If you say that it is a glorified high school, that is not quite correct. But we've not attained where we're supposed to, fine. But from the intervention of some of the federal government agencies, like the Educational Tax Fund and the PTDF, there's a significant improvement in the infrastructure in the state-owned and the federal-owned universities. I still believe that the federal institutions and the state institutions are still, in terms of general infrastructure provisions, are much better than the average private schools. So we cannot say exactly that there's a dearth of infrastructure. It may be inadequate because of the number of students that they admit every year. So they are overstressed. So we are now working on a plan in terms of hostel accommodation. I also believe that the condition of, the living condition, I'm not talking about laboratory and libraries, a classroom, but the living condition of our students in the tertiary institutions are not too good, so they are overcrowded. And there are plans that we're working on with the private sector to make sure that some banks are also interested. And in the next 4 years, we are going to pursue that aggressively to make sure that we expand the hostel accommodation for students who will pay very minimum rates to live a decent life. In terms of the laboratory facilities, the Education Tax Fund and the Petroleum Technology Fund, they are intervening in addition to the line budgeting from the ministries. And we'll expand. I think this year we allocated more to education than we have ever done. Because, you see, something must start somewhere. We have allocated more. And we know that so many Nigerians, students don't get space because of the limited space we have. And we are also establishing 9 new universities. These are going to be smaller universities, not going to be as big as the traditional universities, you know. I told the minister that even by the time they get to the 4 years, none of them should have more than 500 students a year. So we are talking about managing just about 2,000 students, even by the time they will be graduating students at the end of the first 4 years, so that we'll be able to provide the best and modern facilities for the training. And we also do that because we want to make sure that tertiary education also is uniformly spread in this country, that every state should have at least a degree awarding institution owned by the federal government. As we are talking, before we establish these 9 universities, there are some geopolitical zones that more than 4 states don't have tertiary institutions that award degrees. And we feel that that is not a very healthy condition.
Thank you very much. Mohamed Gaba, you have the next question.
Dr. Goodluck, after graduation, most of our students will find themselves in the labor market. And I believe the high level of unemployment in this country is really worrisome. We have been witnessing quite a number of increasing cases of unemployed youths and university graduates that are roaming our streets. How do you intend to address this problem?
I'm not surprised that this question has come up again because the issue of job creation is central. We'll address that. First and foremost, government alone cannot employ. There is this notion that government has to employ everybody. Government cannot. Already, we've set up a committee headed by Dangote. It's an industrialist. It's one of the biggest employers of labor as a private person. And I think next week or so, we even have a program. We're going to unveil it to Nigerians. They've come up, our own economic management team have been working over the period because I tasked them that one of the greatest challenges we are facing as a nation is to create jobs for our teeming youth. And they are working on that. So they will unveil it. But one thing that we're interested in is to stimulate the economy. When you stimulate the economy and the economy is growing, there will be jobs. First and foremost, the issue of power, which we're addressing very aggressively. Next is making money available to these our factories and our industries. The Ministry of Finance, in conjunction with the central bank, have made money available for soft loans, at least 1% digit borrowing rate, and with long time and probably some moratorium period. That has made some of these industries to begin to take off. So that alone, if by the time we stabilize power, from the experts, they believe that if we stabilize power, it will increase employment by almost 80%, almost double, just stabilizing power alone at the small and medium scale level. By the time